In what ways does your media product use, develop, or challenge forms and conventions of real media products? Our film is very different to other thriller films in terms of narrative because our film is about this female villain who traps her claustrophobic victims in a confined space to take part in a life-threatening game. This highly resembles the film franchise Saw, where the film places certain victims in a life-threatening game, but the difference between Saw and our film is that our villain places subtle clues in the games through the use of anagrams and puzzles to help her victims find a way to solve the game and survive. Having claustrophobia, crime, enigma, anagrams, and puzzles as themes makes our film seem like a psychological thriller and a crime thriller. Memento, Shutter Island, and The Machinist can all be said to be like our film. These films have a lot of mystery and feature clues, puzzles, and even anagrams. Emmanuel Carrière plays the protagonist of our film, Michael Jones, who is also a victim, having been tricked by the antagonist of our film, Tanya Khan, who is played by Tasnim Siddiqui. In the film opening, he finds himself handcuffed inside a lift in order to play a game created by the antagonist, Tanya Khan. The antagonist is not very typical to the thriller iconography because she's female. In most thriller films, you'll find male villains. However, in terms of characteristics, she's fairly typical for a villain because she's revengeful, cunning, and cruel, which are common traits you'll find in villains in general. We would have included police officers in the film opening, but due to the lack of resources to find police uniforms and not being able to find a police station just made it impossible for us to include police officers. Nurse Ratched from the film and novel One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest is said to be one of the best female villains of all time. Our film's antagonist is similar to her because both characters have a lot of power and authority over other characters, and they're both cruel. We do have a fake character in our film opening called Sarah Hutchison, who is really Tanya Khan. Tanya Khan makes a fake Facebook account as a persona, Sarah Hutchison, who is a bullied schoolgirl thinking about committing suicide to make Michael sympathize with the persona and then ordering him to come to a street, Wellington Row, without him knowing that she's actually going to make him unconscious and put him inside a confined space to play a life-threatening game. The codes and conventions of a thriller film are low-key lighting, confined spaces, police officers and handcuffs, blood, crime, mystery and enigma, weapons, a male villain, victims and patients, and masked or cloaked victims. Our film has adhered to some of these conventions, such as including a confined space, a mysterious masked villain, enigma, by including anagrams and including a handcuff as a prop. The only conventions we subverted to was having a male villain and including damsel in distress female victims. In thriller films, there are a lot of close-up and cut-in shots to show specific details of characters and objects. We did the same for our film opening. Cut-in shots include when Michael tries to break off his handcuff and when Tanya opens the door to her bedroom and enters. Close-up shots include Michael's eyes looking at the audio recorder and looking at the notebook he is turning the pages of. High-angle shots are also commonly used in thriller films to show possible voyeurism or to convey to the audience that this is the point of view of a CCTV camera. We've demonstrated this as we made two scenes black and white and added a high-angle shot to show that it's the point of view of a CCTV camera inside the lift Michael is in, recording everything he is doing. We also did a pan long shot of the street our female villain lives in, Wellington Road, to show that this is the place where she meets up with her claustrophobic victims and turns them unconscious without them knowing, to place them in a confined space. I ensured continuity editing by constantly putting up crosscuts to show that two events are happening at the same time, and to show that Tanya is watching Michael via the CCTV camera that is connected to her laptop. I also used crosscuts to Emmanuel's character Michael's face reading the Facebook messages Tanya Khan as Sarah Hutchison sent him, and then back to Tanya typing up new messages to send to him. This is to show that they're having an online conversation. Michael doesn't know about her plan to make him unconscious and place him inside a confined space to play a life-threatening game. In a thriller film, we'd hear diegetic and non-diegetic sounds, and this was demonstrated in our film opening. The diegetic sounds include Emmanuel's character Michael's dialogue and the typing on the keyboard noises Tasnim as Tanya Khan makes. Non-diegetic sounds include the music tracks we use that sound very tense to exaggerate the drama in the scenes and to make the audience feel more anticipated. The music tracks are orchestral and usually have a fast tempo, though the music tracks in Tanya's scenes are slower in tempo and creepier than in Michael's scenes to reflect the mood the characters are feeling. Tanya is a mysterious, cruel villain, and Michael is a claustrophobic victim who is panicking inside the lift. The typical mise-en-scene we see in most thriller films is a police station, police officers, guns and handcuffs, and a prison, etc. The only mise-en-scene we used from that list is including a handcuff. Confined spaces are also a typical mise-en-scene, but are less common than a police station. The confined space in our film opening is to reflect the main theme of our film, which is claustrophobia, and to provoke the fear of the victims since they're claustrophobic. The handcuff was there to enhance the fear that Michael feels. He's trapped inside this lift because of the handcuff. Other props we used are a laptop, notebook, black mask, paint set, victims' photographs, which are all not that common mise-en-scene, though villains do typically cover themselves with a mask or wearing a hoodie to show mystery and enigma. Our villain wears dark clothes and a black mask to reflect her cruel personality. We haven't put the titles up yet in our film opening, but we're planning to include fairly bold red titles with the font Franklin Gothic Medium. We don't want our font to be too bold because we want our titles to be clear enough for our audience. Our titles would also feature anagrams of the titles to show that anagrams is a major theme in our film. A few weeks ago, I was experimenting on After Effects and I found this effect called kinematic, which rearranges the letters of the titles and then forms it, which is very similar to our plan of anagrams rearranging and morphing into titles. We've added to the typical thriller titles seen in existing films because thriller films usually have sans serif font titles and no fancy font to show the masculinity and seriousness that thriller films adopt. Films such as Splice, Cape Fear, Buried and Seven show this because they all used sans serif font.